Picture this, it's 9 a.m., Slack is already pinging, and your team's group chat is a fireworks show of inside jokes, GIFs, and brunch photos. You hover over the emoji menu, searching for the right laugh react, but everything feels like trying to clap on the wrong beat. You like these people, you really do, yet a familiar thought flickers. They're tuned to FM, I'm processing in short wave. If that scene feels uncomfortably specific, you're not broken. You're experiencing the quiet tax that high cognitive speed can levy on everyday belonging. So hold a single snapshot from your own life, a science fair ribbon no one mentioned again, the book report that earned praise from the teacher but eye rolls from classmates, the meeting where your idea landed like code in a poetry slam. We'll keep that memory as our compass while we traverse brain scan data, evolutionary wiring, Nietzsche's mountaintop retreats, and two true stories, one from a teenage coder, one from a fintech analyst, that reveal why intelligence can stretch the distance between people and how to turn that stretch into a tensile bridge instead of a breaking point. We start with one statistic because numbers slice through anecdote. A London-Singapore survey of 15,000 adults found that parties usually lift mood, except for the sharpest 5%, who reported feeling worse after an evening out. A matching fMRI study at the University of Virginia showed the same group's brains lighting up only when they worked in silence. That quiet is our leitmotif, signal. Think of your mind as a satellite dish that tunes faint cosmic trivia, subtle patterns, future ripples, while local chatter crackles like static. Your friends gush over the new superhero trailer. Your brain is still crunching a podcast on quantum gravity. They hear white noise when you broadcast. You hear white noise when they reply. The dish works flawlessly, and you feel alone. Evolutionary psychologist Satoshi Kanazawa calls this ancestral math. When our species huddled in bands of 150, going solo meant death, unless you could think 3 moves ahead. The brighter the torch, the less constant company it needed. Fast forward to open plan offices and Slack pings. Your brain still trusts the old algorithm. No wonder small talk tastes like empty calories. Picture a Tuesday meeting. You float an elegant process fix, conversation boomerangs to weekend sports, superego whispers stop showing off, and brilliance folds into polite smiles. Loneliness ripens. Enter Devon Ng, Portland, age 14. His NASA-praised climate data dashboard won headlines. Peers dubbed him Wikipedia face. He lunched alone, scrolling GitHub. A counselor pushed him to mentor the robotics club. The first session flopped. Devon spoke in logarithms. Freshmen glazed over. Second try, he recast code as skateboard tricks. Velocity, torque, ollies. Laughter cracked, lenses aligned, and by spring the club won regionals. Devon discovered what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls shared flow. Modulate the signal and genius travels. But individual fixes need cultural ballast. Gifted tracks in U.S. schools raise test scores yet shrink belonging. A Johns Hopkins follow-up of 1/600 accelerated kids found that by age 30, their felt connection lagged 30% behind peers. Contrast that with Denmark's Camp Curiosity, where teenage polymaths spend 2 phone-free weeks building projects that require partners. 9 summers in, 92% report a stronger appetite for teamwork half a year later. Force genius to braid with play, and it remembers laughter is a technology too. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman offers a deeper clue. When high IQ volunteers simply daydream in an fMRI, the regions that model future conversations throttle up. They rehearse lightning-fast dialogues with imagined equals. Real talk feels dial-up by comparison. Loneliness, then, isn't lack of company. It's the crash that follows an anticipated symphony. One remedy comes from organizational psychologist Adam Grant. The question burst. For 4 minutes, a trio fires rapid-fire questions, no advice, about a problem you pose. Divergent thinkers revel because the currency is curiosity, not chit-chat. Wharton pilots show loneliness scores drop for 48 hours afterward, especially in self-identified introverts. A short, structured burst lets the dish share raw signal without drowning listeners. Signal warps inside digital life. A 2022 Pew survey found that adults with postgraduate degrees spend 38% more time on solo screen activities versus their bachelor-level peers. The pattern smacks of Kanazawa's prediction: the sharper the dish, the more we retreat to algorithmic rabbit holes where no small talk intrudes. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Yet loneliness biomarkers, cortisol, IL-6, climb in the same population. The forest gets quieter, wolves of stress close in. Let's tighten drama. Story 2, Seattle FinTech Startup, 2018. Clara, a 32-year-old data scientist, built fraud detection code that sliced chargebacks in half. Leadership praised her, then scheduled her to present weekly lunch and learns. Slack applauded emojis. Actual attendance dwindled. Cara's voice dimmed. She pulled longer solo hours, skipped happy hour, told HR she worked best heads down. 6 months later, she quit. Exit interview note: I could solve billion-dollar puzzles, could not solve small talk. Post-exit surveys showed the company lost $4 million to fraud uptick before they replaced her model, proof the dish's silence cost the tribe. Nietzsche's ghost nods. He wrote, "Thus spoke Zarathustra in alpine solitude, exalting mountain air as antidote to herd thinking." Yet biographers trace his mental break to cascading isolation. Intelligence soared, oxygen of fellowship thinned. Seneca offers counter-counsel. If wisdom were offered on condition you must keep it to yourself, you would refuse. Knowledge yearns to circulate. A sealed vault corrodes. So what now? Signal tuning protocol. 4 moves. 1. Deliberate estrangement. Deliberate immersion. Schedule 90-minute deep work sprints. Phone off, door closed. Immediately afterward, 30 minutes of present-focused social contact. Corridor chat, snack run with a colleague, even playful banter online. Think of breath cycles. Inhale complexity, exhale connection. Neuroscientist Mary Helen Imordino Yang's lab shows such alternation calms the brain's salience network, softening the switch cost between solitude and society. 2. Micro-confessions. At your next gathering, share one quirky intrigue in 2 sentences max. I fell down a rabbit hole on mushroom internet under forests. Wild, right? Gauge reactions. Glazed eyes, let it rest. Raised brows, offer a 3rd sentence. Social neuroscientist John Cacioppo measured that even fleeting intellectual resonance, 3 minutes of Me Too, lowers loneliness scores for 48 hours. 3. Common tongue journaling. Nightly, explain the day's most intricate idea as if tutoring a curious 12-year-old. Flexes empathy muscles, translates specialist jargon into relational bridge boards. Over weeks you'll notice dinner talk flowing smoother because your brain rehearsed code switching. 4. Service conversion. Your dish hears faint signals, share them as utility. Devon mentored robotics. Maya Angelou read bar chatter to seasoned pros. Ask, who benefits if I decode what I know? Tutor, blog, volunteer. Studies show pro-social knowledge use flips loneliness into belonging without diluting depth. But caution, signal abuse exists. If you wield intellect as shield, correcting everyone mid-sentence, broadcasting jargon to prove rank, you feed the isolation loop. Albert Ellis would say you are rating people rather than relating. Drop the scoreboard, curiosity over comparison. Cultural zoom out. Silicon Valley lionizes 10x engineers rumored to prefer darkness and pizza over meetings. Myth partly true. Deep focus births code, yet researcher Cal Newport's work on superstar teams reveals peak output occurs when solitary deep work alternates with serendipity collisions in communal spaces. The lone genius model scales poorly. The oscillating genius model thrives. Evolutionary detour. In hunter-gatherer bands, anthropologist Joseph Henrich notes that innovators often left camp to tinker, then returned to demo fire-hardened spears. Tribe adopted, innovator regained social capital. Modern analog, open source projects. Git commits happen alone, pull requests spark feedback loops. Intelligence radiates value when the dish turns outward. What about romantic life? A 2020 speed date lab study at Northwestern tracked 5,000 mini-dates. Participants who used metaphor or analogy to explain niche interests, e.g., CRISPR is like scissors for DNA, secured 24% more second date offers than those who flaunted raw terminology. Translation fosters flirtation, jargon repels. Yet not all dish static is external. Internal critics hiss, "You're too much." Psychologist Kristen Neff prescribes self-compassion exercises. Notice mental scolding. Replace with, "Suffering from disconnection is human." Repeat until the dish stops turning its beam on itself. Mythic lens. Prometheus steals fire, technology, foresight, and suffers alone on a cliff. But look again. Humanity survives because he shared the flame. Smart became communal gift. Isolation became mythic caution. Your intellect's best destiny mirrors that arc. Evolve from solitary insight to shared light. Now, an unexpected way, loneliness warps cognition, hypermentalizing or over-interpreting social cues. A 2021 Oxford study found high IQ individuals scoring high on loneliness were twice as likely to assume negative intent in neutral emails. The remedy? Perspective windows. Before replying, imagine 3 benign motives. You train the dish to scan multiple frequencies, dampening paranoia. Let's inhale another story. Clara Hughes, 6-time Olympic medalist and self-taught astronomy nerd, spent off-seasons reading astrophysics alone in cabins. Post-gold medal high, she spiraled into depression, the dish stuck on cosmic static, no human station. Her therapist assigned curiosity rides. Cycle to a small town, ask locals one big question about their sky memories. Kids pointed out constellations, farmers described lunar planting. Hughes later said those roadside chats stitched the stars back to humanity and steered her toward mental health advocacy. Signal retuned. Cycles of tension and ease matter. After every scientific stat above, you've noticed rhetorical pauses. Think about it. That's deliberate. It lets your parasympathetic system catch up. Build the habit in conversation. Share one mind bender, then pivot to a calming question. What surprised you today? The dance keeps partners engaged instead of overwhelmed. Let's widen further to education policy. Gifted programs often isolate top scorers, reinforcing the smart equals alone script. Finland's mixed ability classrooms, by contrast, pair high-competence students with peers in rotating leader roles. PISA rankings stay sky-high, and survey data shows Finnish gifted teens report lower loneliness than American counterparts. When intelligence becomes collaborative currency early, adulthood retains the pattern. Corporate application. Mercer's context indexing pilot teaches managers to ask reports, "Which signal excites you right now?" Then leash meetings to that passion for 5 minutes before agenda. Attrition in high IQ teams fell by 18% in a year. People stayed because the room finally tuned to their frequency. The moment Mercer's experiment went live, a subtler revolution was brewing 2 floors below their C-suite boardroom, inside a supply closet turned studio lit by a single ring lamp. 3 junior analysts, Samira, Miguel, and Rowan, met there on Thursday evenings with cold pizza and an aging HDMI splitter. Their unofficial club, decode one maddening problem nobody had time to solve during billable hours, then stream a 5-minute breakdown to a private Slack channel tagged #NerdLab. The first clip, recorded on a whim, explained why sales projections kept missing by exactly 3%. The forecasting macro-rounded mid-quarter leap year dates the wrong way. 17 colleagues watched, tossed emojis, went back to dashboards. But week 5, the trio tackled something spicier, customer churn clustering, and proposed a fix that would save $700 thousands a quarter. The VP of Operations binge-watched all prior episodes in a single night, then emailed, "Who are you people?" That mini-myth surfaces a principle evolutionary biologist David Sloan Wilson calls emergence. When simple interactive rules create outcomes no hierarchy can script. The analysts never planned to dent the P&L, they just needed somewhere to let their unused wattage arc. Give high bandwidth minds a sandbox, and sooner or later the sand turns to silicon. Yet emergence has a dark twin, entropy. If your sandbox lacks porous walls, play ossifies into clique. Online communities show the pattern in Fast Forward. A recent MIT Media Lab crawl of 40,000 intellectual subreddits found that once a thread reached 90% jargon saturation, newcomer participation cratered. Translation: insiders signal brilliance, outsiders bounce. When the dish points only inward, signal becomes echo, echo becomes dust. To flip entropy back into emergence, you need bridges. Sociologist Mark Granovetter coined the term strength of weak ties for the surprising potency of casual links. Your barber, an old lab partner, at opening opportunity corridors. Smart alone folk often prune these ties, pruning serendipity with them. Regrowing weak links doesn't require forced mingling. It requires micro-invitations. That same MIT study noted that subreddits that pinned a weekly "explain like I'm 5" thread reversed the jargon spiral within a month. But let's climb above keyboards and into city streets, because the built environment itself can tune or detune intelligence. Urbanist Jane Jacobs argued that great ideas arise where sidewalk ballet, dense, varied foot traffic, mixes brains the way tides mix nutrients. Modern neuroscience backs her hunch. A Columbia University study attached GPS beacons and mood track apps to 501 New Yorkers for a month. High cognitive ability participants reported their happiest spikes not in libraries but at corner bodegas between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m., the golden hour of accidental bump-ins. In other words, a serendipity-rich grid hacks the smart equals-alone algorithm at the infrastructure level. Companies have tried to domesticate sidewalk ballet indoors. Pixar's Steve Jobs infamously placed all bathrooms in one central atrium so techies would cross paths with story artists. Critics called it an introvert's nightmare. Yet post-occupancy surveys showed idea cross-pollination tripled in a year, while reported stress held steady. Conclusion: engineered collisions can nourish when the underpinning culture rewards curiosity over status. That cultural clause matters. At a defense tech conference in DC, I met Ashok, a quiet algorithm engineer whose code guides drones through hurricane eyes. Brilliant, lonely, habitual conference wallflower. Over coffee, he disclosed a ritual. Anytime he attended a talk, he drafted 2 new research questions by the last slide, then asked whichever felt least self-aggrandizing during Q&A. The speaker's answer barely mattered. The point was to step to the mic, voice quivering, and remind himself inhabitation beats observation. He tracked the habit for 1 calendar year, 41 mics, 0 ridicule, 3 co-authored papers launched from hallway follow-ups. His takeaway: safety wasn't the absence of judgment, it was proof I could survive judgment. Judgment fear is wired deep. Psychologist Carol Dweck's mindset work shows that gifted children praised solely for being smart often dodge challenges that threaten the label, defaulting to solos they can ace. Fast forward, adult prodigies concealed behind polite competence. The antidote is praising process. That was a courageous question, not "you're a genius," because process feedback scales across audiences. Next time someone impresses you, test it. Honor the risk taken, not the IQ displayed. You'll feel their posture loosen, mirror neurons synchronize. Let's shift lens again. to biology and peak at oxytocin's lesser-known cousin, endorphin. Neuroscientist Robin Dunbar demonstrated that laughing in the groups triggers this opioid, fostering warmth even among analytical types who claim not to value fluff. When Devon recast formulas into skateboard humor, he primed Fowler's endorphin. The robotics club's cohesion that followed was chemistry, not magic. Tactical takeaway: introduce a dash of humor before delving into Nietzsche depth. A physics meme can lubricate a tensor rant more efficiently than any MBA icebreaker. Still, bridging out doesn't negate the need to burrow in. Poet Mary Oliver wrote, "Attention is the beginning of devotion. Devotion, for high cognition minds, often demands protected solitude. So architects like Julia Luckenbach design library pods inside co-working floors, soundproofed cocoons you sign out for 90 minutes. Usage logs show pods overflow at 11 a.m., empty by 2, as users naturally oscillate toward lunch chatter. Built rhythm again. Inhale, exhale, but what if your environment refuses to oscillate? Think long-haul caregiving, military deployment, or poverty's grind. History offers pirate tricks. Ada Lovelace, shackled by 19th and 19th century gender norms, rendezvoused with mathematician Augustus de Morgan via letters disguised as poetry drafts. The correspondence crackled with calculus, hidden in iambs, slipping under censors literal and cultural. Cognitive companionship, smuggled through art. Modern analog. WhatsApp groups masked as book clubs that swap quantum proofs between nursing shifts, where bandwidth is barred, creativity tunnels. Which nudges us to ethics. Intelligence divorced from empathy can seed exploitation. Cambridge Analytica's architects mapped psychographic clusters with dazzling acumen, then sold influence like pesticide. Philosopher Martha Nussbaum warns that the capabilities approach means nothing unless capabilities are steered toward human flourishing for all, not just the strategist. Translation for our theme: the dish must ask who benefits from its beam. Regularly schedule that audit or risk becoming the villain in someone else's data set. Audit done, you need nourishment. Studies by sleep scientist Matthew Walker show deep REM cycles spike after days rich in both solitude and social novelty. Brains flush toxins, memory integrates. Conversely, chronic loneliness shortens REM and stunts insight. So self-care for the cerebral isn't bubble baths, it's curating the ratio that gives you thick, weird dreams. Tonight, tally your last week. How many hours cave? How many campfire? If the ledger skews, adjust tomorrow's plan, not in 6 months. Now, a fresh story for the closing swell. In rural Japan, the town of Kamiyama faced population collapse until a fiber optic pilot lured remote engineers. Yoshihiko, a crypto coder from Osaka, arrived skeptical. Week 1, he sprinted through tickets by day, hid in a ryokan room by night. Week 3, a neighbor roped him into Saturday River cleanup. Yoshihiko despised manual labor but stayed. Coffee afterwards smelled good. Volunteers asked about his screen life. He, embarrassed, explained blockchain and vegetable crate diagrams. Curious grunts turned to questions to brainstorming. 6 months later, that cleanup crew launched an NFT marketplace funding local agriculture. Yoshihiko still codes 12 silent hours daily. But Wednesday nights, he eats soba with 70-year-old rice farmers who now track Ethereum prices on tablets. Smart became village engine. Village returned grocery store laughter. Kamiyama's census ticked upward for the first time in 20 years. Which circles us back to your own census, the head count of humans you let orbit your private star. Not everyone must fit. Gravity weakens with spread. Pilot instead for targeted constellations. One mentor who speaks your dialect, one mentee you translate it for, 3 peers who spark, one wildcard friend who knows nothing about your field but everything about sunsets. 5 nodes, Dunbar's intimate circle, enough to echo, not yet to overwhelm. Before we hand the mic back to your evening, a meta point. You've now read nearly 30 references: labs, myth, story, city planning. If your pulse quickened, that's signal singing. Pick one citation, Google the primary source, and email a question to the author. Academic inboxes are quieter than you think. Many reply. When they do, you've cracked the lattice extending from your dish to theirs. Lattice by lattice, the smart equals alone equation tilts towards smart equals network. And if silence answers, remember Ashok's mantra: you survive judgment. Send another beacon elsewhere. A lighthouse measures worth not by ships that dock, but by beams it refuses to dim. So tomorrow morning, pick your slot on the calendar. 90 minutes solo, 30 minutes bridge. Laugh once, audit twice, sleep deep, dream weird. Repeat until the balance feels less like math and more like music. When your inner satellite hums harmony, static dissolving into distant chorale, you'll know the recalibration stuck, because the opposite of loneliness isn't constant company, it is resonance. And resonance begins the instant one brave signal meets another at just the right amplitude. Make yours the next to travel. But what if the room never tunes? Hannah Arendt wrote, "The origins of totalitarianism hold up in a cramped Manhattan apartment. Her letters reveal searing solitude, yet she mailed pages to mentors weekly. Dialogue by post saved her sanity and sharpened her prose. In our era, digital communities offer similar lifelines, except algorithms can trap you in echo chambers. Curate for dialogue, not applause. Follow accounts that critique, not worship, your field. We've climbed multiple peaks, time to weave them. Intelligence begets solitude because complex signal processing rewards quiet. Solitude begets loneliness when signal stops flowing outward. Loneliness then distorts both perception and gift. The cycle breaks through oscillation, translation, and service. Ready for practice? Tonight, try the dish shift ritual. 1. Set a 45-minute timer. Tackle a problem that thrills only you. 2. When it rings, text one friend a distilled nugget. Random fact: octopuses taste with their arms. 3. Invite a reaction. No monologue. 4. Note bodily shift. Feel awkward? Normal. The dish just broadcast. Repeat thrice this week. Track which contacts echo back. Those are your co-orbiters. We near our final hook. Intelligence without connection risks implosion. Connection without depth risks drift. Your job isn't to choose, it's to conduct, like a lighthouse alternating pulse and dark. Ships navigate not by constant glare, but rhythmic beams. So ask yourself right now, will you keep hoarding the light, or will you risk one imperfect flash into the fog? 10 words in a message, a 2-sentence insight at lunch, a volunteer code review, tiny pulses that say, signal available. Let the next response, yes, even silence, teach your dish new harmonics. Your lone brilliance is not a verdict, it's a resource. Point it gently outward again and again until the quiet in your head starts returning as music from another shore. Then you'll know smart does not have to equal alone. Smart can equal lighthouse. Now breathe, choose one person, one spark, one send button, and let the beam begin.